Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. I just woke up from a nap, and that's usually a little difficult to wake up. I feel like I have a hangover every time I wake up, which is almost like I feel like, isn't that just the way, I don't get to enjoy the drinking part. I just now have a hangover because of my head symptoms. So at least I can find some humor in it. Anyway, my daughter just called. She is interviewing for jobs, and she told me that it didn't go so well. So she was telling me that she they're doing construction in her house. So she went over to the college that she lives by, which is like across the street from her house. So she went in there for a quiet place and couldn't get Wi-Fi service. I tried everything and couldn't get Wi-Fi service. So like right at the time where she was supposed to be doing the interview, she had to run back to her house. And then got home, and like the construction was really loud. She was like 10 minutes late. Then she had to take a test, and she said it was one of those. You older folks know what I mean. It was one of those interviews where just nothing seemed to, it's like the planets would not align for her. So I told her, these are the some of the requirements that we have in our lives as human beings. We have to have those interviews that are just a complete disaster. I remember having, I remember a couple interviews that were really, really bad. And I don't know. She said they will definitely email her whatever conclusion, if they decide to not give her the job, or not move forward, I guess I should say, not move forward with another interview. I remember going through many situations where they like never even called me or anything like that. So, um, hopefully at my last job, they at least would give folks the FYI that we weren't moving forward, because it's really difficult. It's a big deal to look for a job, and to like have people leave you hanging is kind of rude. I think it's rude. But anyway, so that was just right before I hit record. So she seemed to have a good attitude about it, but I could tell that like her adrenaline was just finally starting to calm down. It was a lot from running. She said, I ran back from the school, and like I was huffing and puffing so much that I had to like sit and wait for my heart rate to slow down so that I wasn't like getting on to the call and being like totally exhausted and not being able to breathe. So anyway, yeah, poor her. My heart goes out to these young folks that are looking for a job. So, okay, well, today I want to talk about eating and drinking, which is something I love to do now, but I did not really care for eating when I was drinking alcohol. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about my experience with sweets and some of the simple choices that we make regarding just what we put in our body. Most recently, you all, I think, are aware, yeah, that we were vegan in my household. Well, just me and my husband were vegan, and it was about 11 months that we were vegan. And we really did it because I wanted to see if it had an effect on the pain in my head. And it didn't. but the jury is still out on all the other stuff. Like, just how do I generally feel different going back now to not being vegan? In a lot of ways, we're still very plant-based, but we are eating cheese for sure because they just haven't figured out cheese in the vegan world. And of course my Breyer's vanilla ice cream. So vanilla ice cream is part of the topic of my conversation today because I have most nights I have a vanilla ice cream cone. And it's a place that I have settled into after years of going up and down the sweets road. Like, I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it. So there is a lot of power in just the decisions that we make about what we're going to put in our body. And with the roller coaster that is early sobriety, what we put in our body can make the difference between having a good experience and having one that is full of like white knuckling. So this morning we read from the book Living Sober, which is a really great book of short stories and about early sobriety. Lots of them really resonate with me. I didn't hear about this book until I'd say COVID. So that was about 4 years ago that I started really, and there's two now. There's Living Sober and Living Sober 2. So I really recommend these books. But so we read from this chapter that's about eating and drinking, usually something sweet, I think is the title of the story. And it starts out by talking about when you were drinking, did you crave sweets? Like, for me, I did not crave sweets. Like, I did not come within a pole's distance from a slice of cake with icing. It kind of grossed me out. And that was even more so towards the end of my drinking when I was having so much, the way I look at it, I had so much sugar intake that the thought of like cake with icing or candy or chocolate, anything really made me nauseous to think about. But when I got sober, it was something that helped curb my urge to drink. So, um, yeah, these are some of the smaller things that I did in early sobriety that on the side of like all these principles and steps and everything that I talk about, on the side, like what did I do at night on a daily basis? Like when I was usually sitting before I quit drinking, I was sitting in front of the TV with a glass of wine. Like I always had a glass of wine in my hand. So what did I do? Um, well, I started off by drinking sparkling water. I think I started off by drinking water and it was just not doing it for me. Like water was not going to do it for me. So, I heard a lot of people in sobriety talking about sparkling water, and sparkling water was kind of up and coming when I got sober. So, my boyfriend would buy like all different flavors of different kinds of sparkling water. And then I started to learn that I can put like splashes of something in it. And for me, it was usually something like strawberry lemonade or something like that, that I think added just enough sugar that it helped curb that urge. The fizz was did something for me. I don't know, it made the drink a little more exciting other than just water. And I think I was getting a heck of a lot more hydrated than I ever was when I was drinking. I never drank water. And you could tell by looking at me that I was undernourished in a lot of different ways. So starting to figure out what my drink of choice was going to be, and then starting to put good food in my body to also dampen that craving for alcohol. Um, I had to make sure that I was not, they say halt, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. So hungry is definite, hungry and thirsty. Is that I think the top of the list for a reason. Um, if I needed to, if I felt an urge like I needed to put something in my mouth because I was hungry or thirsty, the first thing that I wanted in early sobriety was alcohol. So the deal was to never let myself get too hungry or thirsty. So just as much as I always had a glass of wine in my hand before I got sober, I tried to make sure I always had a beverage with me. So whether it was, I'm trying to remember what else I would drink back then. Gatorade, sparkling water, just lots of, we had a beverage cooler. It was a little refrigerator that I used to put all my alcohol in, but we called it a beverage cooler after I got sober. And we just stacked it full of all kinds of drinks that I enjoyed. And that way it became a little more like a treat for me that I get to have. I would go to the refrigerator and like, what am I going to drink now? And I had lots of different choices. So it made it enjoyable. And sorry, my puppies are barking. Quiet, Autumn. You're interrupting the people, Autumn. Okay, sorry. So yeah, so making sure that I was not thirsty because I could tell when I was thirsty, I had more of an urge to go to the store and get alcohol. So I made sure that that didn't happen. There are some folks that are told by their sponsors to always have a piece of candy or chocolate in your purse. And I did that as well. I, though, was not a big chocolate person. I actually still to this day really like the tart sweets. So I would have like sweet tarts or I can't think of the name, Starbursts. Yeah, I would have those in my purse. And I was concerned in the beginning when I first got sober. The first time I went to detox, I was concerned that I was going to gain weight. And I did gain weight. And the thing is that the second time I started drinking again, you all know the story. The second time I went to detox, I didn't care if I gained weight or not because I was desperate. I was willing to do whatever it took. And that if that meant that I was going to gain a few pounds, it didn't freaking matter to me. Like, what's the use of being skinny if I'm not even around, to so it didn't matter if I gained weight. I would deal with that after I got rid of the urge to drink. So I did rely a lot on candy, and sweets. However, when I went to detox, they prescribed me with naltrexone, and naltrexone is a drug that they give that curbs that craving. And I took that for about 3 months. but I think my insurance company didn't cover it, or else they covered it, but not a lot of it. So I had to pay like $50 a bottle or something like that. And back then, I had just gotten sober, so my financial situation was absolutely terrible because I was spending all my money on alcohol and not paying my bills. And so the thought of spending $50 on a on a pill bottle was too much for me. So I decided to stop taking naltrexone, which is something I would not recommend. I was like, we'll just see what happens. And that's really, you should never do that, people. Never say, I'm going to stop taking this. Let's just see what happens because it's never good. So I stopped taking it. And thank God, the only thing that changed for me was my craving for candy. And it was crazy craving for candy. I would buy candy by the bags and I would let myself have whatever I wanted to the point where I started craving candy, if you know what I mean, like to the point where I was craving alcohol. And it was just ridiculous. So I ended up after several months of just getting more than a sugar fix, I had to wean myself off of candy. And the way that I did that was with fruit. And I think that that is a really great trade-off. I love fruit. So I started to just buy strawberries and grapes and grapefruits and oranges, and that did work for me. And then once I switched over pretty regularly, I started to buy vanilla ice cream. And that brings us to today. I have a vanilla ice cream on most days, vanilla ice cream cone, Breyer's natural vanilla ice cream. And I am okay with that. It's not something that I have not been gaining weight because of it. I eat healthy other than that. It's just my one thing. It's my thing that I allow myself to have. This morning, lots of folks were talking about different things that they use in order to replace eating something sweet. So, nuts is a great one. Anything that's really portable and you can stick it in your purse are great snacks to keep on hand because I think the most important time to not be thirsty or hungry is when you're actually out of the house, because then you have faster access to stores where you could be reaching for a bottle instead of reaching for a snack or a piece of fruit or, you know, a bottle of juice or something. Like I did also have some time drinking a lot of grape juice. I really like grape juice and apple juice. So, what I was trying to do was just break habits early on. Instead of reaching for a glass, I was getting into the habit of reaching for something that was not a glass. But then once I got comfortable doing that, then I started reaching for something that was a little more healthy than candy. So it was really just building habits again. And when I stopped drinking, I was so undernourished. When I was in detox, they start giving you, I think it's B1 is the vitamin. And I didn't even realize, honestly, until like a year later. And I looked at I had to go get my driver's license redone. And I looked at the picture that I took a year later and the picture that was on my previous license, and it was night and day. It was fascinating. Like my hair was thicker, my nails were thicker, the color in my face. I actually had meat on my face rather than I was just like skin and bones, and my skin was just a really yucky color. Um, so when I started to eat real food again, um, you could tell on the outside. It also, what we put in, they say what you are, what you eat. Like it's amazing how much better my brain functions when I'm eating things that are nutritious or when I'm eating. Like, I don't even know how I could even think straight. I couldn't think straight because I just wasn't giving my body the nutrients that it needed. Um, so yes, I gained weight. I eventually got into the habit. Once I got comfortable, I got into the exercise habit. And exercising, well, it went hand in hand with this new way of life of mine. It it wasn't easy at first. I had a foggy mind in the beginning of for probably the first 6 months. I felt very foggy minded. And if I exerted too much energy, I would feel um, lightheaded and that kind of thing. But the more that I put good food in my body, the more I was able to exercise, like, and it all balanced out. So it's a matter of really looking at all of this as one day at a time. And the first time I got sober, I wasn't willing to do that. The first time I stopped drinking, I should say, I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't looking at it because I didn't know how to look at it one day at a time. And the second time I went to detox, it was, okay, what do I need to do for myself today? And what do I need to do for my future self today? And it all just started happening as long as I stayed in today and focused on not picking up a drink today. My natural reaction and my new habits started to unfold for me. I started to eat regular meals. I started to want a hamburger when everybody else wanted a hamburger. I wanted to reach for a banana before I went for my 5K. And that's how it gradually just became a goal for me to nourish my body and take care of when my body's talking to me. When I was hungry before I got sober, that, your stomach growling, I was ignoring it. I was ignoring that my stomach was telling me that I needed to eat. And I was kind of screwed up in the head back then. And what I felt like was me ignoring my stomach telling me that I needed to eat was me punishing myself. It's strange to try to explain to people who haven't had an eating disorder before, but I was purposefully ignoring my body. And when I stopped drinking and I experienced my stomach growling, I had this epiphany where I thought, my body was trying to talk to me. Literally, my body was making noises telling me that it needed something, and I wasn't listening to it. And today I listen to it. My body, right? My body today is something that I care for. It's like I talk a lot about that little girl inside of me. my body is part of that vision now. And I try to make sure that she is totally taken care of and loved. And if it's as simple as getting a glass of water because I'm thirsty, um, I've over time gotten to the point where if I'm thirsty, I give my body water instead of giving my body juice or Coke or something with sugar in it or tea, because I know that that body that's talking to me actually truly needs water in order to function properly and to grow. And I need it. I need this body so that I can fulfill all of these goals and dreams that I have. And again, I talk a lot about how my sobriety prepared me for stroke recovery. And I feel like that is very much true in regard to what I was eating and drinking, what I'm putting into my body and exercise and all of that. I'm so much more in tune with what my body needs. I can tell when it needs to go out for a walk. I can tell when it needs to go down and, get something to drink. I listen to it because I care about it, because I care about me. And I want to live a long time. I want to be here for my daughter when she's got a shitty job interview, or, my son when he goes and gets his license or whatever. Like, I want to be here. And the best thing I can do for myself is take care of this body of mine. And that is taking full-time recovery. That is what I do now. That's my job, is full-time recovery. And the best that I can, I try to share that experience with you so that I can help anybody else along. More try to inspire people that may be tempted to treat their bodies the way that I was treating my body. So thank you for listening today, and for showing up for yourself and showing up for me. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.